First lesson of this new year in the ancient calendar of the Christian church. The first lesson comes from a place which may seem to us, to some of us, to be odd. It comes from Mark's Gospel in the 13th chapter. And I'm beginning here in the 24th verse in a passage that is entitled, "The Coming of the Son of Man," and leading into the passage entitled, "The Necessity for Watchfulness." This is the appropriate passage for this first Sunday of the Christian year. And the very red-letter words of Jesus. Hear now the word of the Lord from Mark chapter 13, verses 24 through 37. And Jesus said that in those days after that suffering, the sun will be dark, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. Then he will send out the angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of heaven. And from the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But about that day or hour no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Beware. Keep awake, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey when he leaves home and puts his slaves in charge, each with his work, and commands the doorkeeper to be on the watch. Therefore, keep awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or cockcrow, or dawn. Or else he may find you asleep when he comes suddenly. And what I say to you, I say to all, keep awake. The Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. Thanks be to God this day. Amen. And we had a good weekend. We had a good Thanksgiving weekend. I don't know about you, but in my family we had a pretty quick turnaround this weekend from first Thanksgiving, right, then to Black Friday, and then now to the first Sunday of Advent. Because with one less Sunday, did you realize there's one less Sunday now between Thanksgiving and Christmas this year? Plus, with the addition of all this Black Friday nonsense, it sure makes for a busy weekend, doesn't it? Our family began by celebrating Thanksgiving on Thursday morning, and as I mentioned, that interfaith Thanksgiving service has really become a tradition for us, and it's something that we look forward to. And then that afternoon we had a lovely meal at the home of friends. One of the best parts is we didn't have to cook. I think Nikki brought a green bean casserole, and other than that, we were taken care of. And then afterwards, I came home and took a nap. And then on Friday morning, we did get out and we participated in all of the mayhem a little bit. We took advantage of a few sales, although it wasn't as busy as I thought it was. Did you all experience that? I guess because some people went out and did all their shopping even on Thursday night. But we made ourselves a list. That's the secret to these kind of things. You make yourself a list, right? And then we went first to the shoe store because our kids, of course, kids always need new shoes. And then, it so happened Nikki's and my cell phones both crashed out last week, so we had to go to the cell phone store, and we took advantage of one of their deals on a new contract. But then on Friday afternoon, we put the baby down, and then Friday afternoon, well, I guess she's not a baby anymore. I'll have to quit calling her a baby one. But we put the little one down for a nap, and Friday afternoon we started putting up the Christmas tree. So, as I mentioned before, Nikki is allergic to evergreens, so we do an artificial tree, and the kids get so excited about this that we do it this weekend, inevitably, right after Thanksgiving. However, as I was putting out the Christmas tree, and I laid out all the Christmas lights from last year, lo and behold, so many of those lights were burnt out that I had to run out and get a new set of Christmas lights. And as it happened, they were having a sale at Big Lots on LED Christmas lights. And so we went from having the low illumination, incandescent lights to now having the super white, bright LED lights on our Christmas tree. And because they were on sale at Big Lots, I went a little overboard. And we've got 540 LED lights on a 7-foot tree. I tell you what, after I had them all on, Nikki cautioned the kids not to look at the tree directly because it was so dazzling bright that if you look at it directly and then you look away, you see little spots dancing before your eyes. However, as I had this sermon in my mind already, I thought, well, at least our tree can help us this year to bear witness to the theme for this Advent Sunday. And that is to keep awake. Because the message that we hear on this first Sunday of Advent, isn't it, is keep awake. Or in some translations you'll read watch. And indeed this passage comes from, as I mentioned, kind of an odd place, doesn't it? From the 13th chapter of Mark, or the chapter that's otherwise known as Mark's Little Apocalypse, in which Jesus is predicting the promise of what? His return. His return at the end of time. For in those days, Jesus says, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. His words draw on the prophet Isaiah, who prophesied of how the people who walk in darkness have seen the great light. For a child has been born to us, a son given to us. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And those with ears to hear would know that by quoting Isaiah, Jesus is making a claim to be that child of prophecy. However, and in the same breath, Jesus also quotes the prophet Daniel, who foresaw one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. For while Jesus interprets Isaiah's prophecy as a sign of his present coming, his reference to Daniel's prophecy anticipates the promise of yet a future coming, when we indeed will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. And it is for this future coming, Jesus tells us that we must keep awake. For you do not know when the time will come, therefore keep awake, he says. Or else you may be asleep when he comes suddenly. And so I say to you, keep awake. Well, of course, this can all seem a little strange, can't it, around this time of year, especially for children, or for new Christians that are still unaccustomed to the ancient rites and liturgy of the church. For instance, this past weekend, while we were working on setting up the Christmas tree, our 3-year-old Eden, who I still call her my baby, she starts singing along with the CD player. Go tell it on the mountain, she sings. Over the hills and everywhere I go, tell it on the mountain, for Jesus Christ is dead. That's what she said. And we heard her say that a few times. Those of you with little kids know this is not really all that unusual, is it? But a few times that her mom stopped her. Her mom says, not Jesus Christ is dead. She was horrified, though she tried not to show it on her face. She said, Jesus Christ is born. Oh, said Deacon. I thought Jesus was dead. He died on that cross thing, didn't he? Well, it seems a little young to be having this type of theological conversation. But I guess that's what you get when you bring your kids to church every Sunday. But I think he finally convinced her that the real line of the song is Jesus Christ is born. Because then, by yesterday afternoon, that's the way she started to sing. And yet it's no wonder that the 3-year-old is confused. by these things. Amen? Because while Advent is intended to be a time of expectant waiting and preparation for the baby at Christmas, all of the lessons and the hymns and even that very word Advent reveal that what we are really anticipating is not for this little baby in the manger to be born again, but for the fulfillment of Christ's promise to return at the end of time. Indeed, the English word Advent is translated from the Latin adventus, which is itself a translation of the Greek word parousia, which it refers in the New Testament exclusively to the second coming of Christ. See, it's kind of a difficult topic for children or for new Christians, or for that matter, any of us to get our heads around, isn't it? Which is why, in recent years, the season of Advent is focused more and more on the baby. And indeed, we've seen this season focusing and more and more overtaken by Christmas shopping and festivities, haven't we? And so really the only place that we hear the traditional message of Advent is right here in the traditional Christian church. Well, this is all very interesting, you might be saying, or not. But yeah, what if anything does this have to do with my life here and now today? Well, I can certainly empathize with that line of thought, because if this was just some kind of a dry history lesson, I wouldn't be up here. I wouldn't be wasting my time. But I believe that what we are talking about today is important, because it can make a big difference in the life of someone who chooses to believe in the promise of Christ's return. And that's because if we know that we ultimately don't have to worry about the future, because we come to believe that God is in control of the natural course of events. And guess what? That allows you to relax a little bit and to lean back and enjoy the ride. A friend of mine compares this change in attitude to the difference between driving a car when your hands are at 10-2 on the steering wheel, right? And you have that tunnel vision looking straight ahead of you at what's coming up on the road, to being, on the other hand, a passenger in the car. And as a passenger, guess what? You get to look around and enjoy the scenery. And you have to be responsible for getting to the destination. And so when we recall that Jesus asked us to keep awake, it can be a reminder for us during this busy season of the year not to get overly focused on the destination. Perhaps by anticipating all that we feel like we have to do to get ready for Christmas, for instance. You know what? We worry so much about that goal, about that destination, that we forget to look around and enjoy the journey. Christian author Anthony DeMello calls this discipline of keeping awake awareness, something that presents no shortage of opportunity for us to practice in this season of the year. For example, and I'll close with this, on Black Friday I was in line for an hour at the cell phone store. Somewhere I would have much preferred not to be on that pretty day, but I was there long enough to notice how, as the customers arrived and were told that they had to wait, some of them behaved politely and courteously, while others were rude and demanding, waiting, not willing to wait to be served. However, I noticed that the ones who were demanding service did not get helped any faster than the ones who were behaving politely. In fact, quite the opposite. It was kind of a tense environment, in fact. And although I was a customer, my sympathies were entirely for the employees, some of whom had obviously been working since the night before. And so when it was my turn to sit down, I tried to be as pleasant as possible. Of course, that experience of waiting in line is a common one, especially during this season of the year. And yet it was a reminder that keeping awake, or just being aware, provides a corrective to that tunnel vision that people so often experience in this time of year, that we often develop as we just go about our day-to-day routine. Because if we don't keep awake, then we can fail to exercise love and compassion for those we meet each day. And if we don't keep awake, then we can fail to see the face of Christ in the people that we meet along the road. In contrast, when we do keep awake, as Jesus commanded us to do, then we can find ourselves in the position to bring the light of Christ into a hurting world. Thanks be to God this day. And now, if there is anyone who would like to know what it means to have that meaning and purpose in our lives, to believe in Jesus Christ and in His promises, or to join with this family of faith by a transfer of membership this day, you're invited.